Router tricks. Today we'll be showing you how to turn that old futuristic teleportation device into a brand new automatic farming machine. To do so, let's look back at part 2. Back in the mists of time, when we talked about flying AMSs, at the end I mentioned that if you deploy a vehicle it will stay stuck there. What I didn't mention was if this was AMS specific or not. Can you think of any other vehicles that might deploy? I'll give you a few seconds. Anything? Anyone? Yes, that's right. The other two are the flail and router. We won't talk much about the flail because if you do deploy it midair, it flips upside down and actually has less range than if it was on the ground. But don't vehicles now clip through each other when ejected from lodestars? So, how do you get this on the back of a galaxy? Remember, once again, from part 2, I talked about how if you dropped an AMS on a landed gal, you could still deploy it midair. You don't? Well, they do. The reason being that collision detection changes based on if the vehicle as a driver is parked, moving, or deployed, so a landed gal won't let the AMS clip through. While this works for an AMS, it doesn't for flails and routers because they hover. This means that they won't stop until their bodies contact the gal, making it hard to get any height out of them, especially the router. However, we still tried it because we enjoy wasting our own time, and by total accident, something happened that I guessed might be possible, but never thought to actually try. You don't need the gal. When ejected from a lodestar, the vehicle jumps up, slows and for a split second, like one of those one-way roller coasters, stops. And then it goes plumps into the earth. What does a vehicle need to deploy? Everyone knows the two criteria: no nearby deployables, and that it has stopped moving. That first one really doesn't matter because I doubt you're going to run into anyone else deploying 100 meters into the air. At that apex where you stop for a moment, if you time it right, you can deploy a router or flail, but non-AMS, due to the needs to be on ground requirement that only it has. Well then, sky's the limit. Actually, this flight ceiling is the limit, and even then it's lower if you want your router to have a working pad. The max range on the router is actually not based from its XY placement, but it's from its XYZ. I worked the math for its max range once, but I lost those notes among the ones I have for flails, their damage regression over distance, and the heights of all the buildings on a Marish. Anyway, the good estimate is half a base SOI, or roughly 300 meters. This is important because you need to place the router so the spawn in the base is close enough to the edge of the SOI that you can plant Spitfires outside the SOI. Yeah, that's right, you heard me. You put a telepad in the one tube you leave up, and have it lead to a flying router with Spitfires underneath it. This is the only trick I've had where the hate tells I got expressed more wonder than rage. So how does this work exactly? First, find a base behind an enemy front that's losing. Stick your router near the edge of the SOI, but not too high so you get the range you need. You need it flying because Spitfires don't detect targets unless they move significantly or take damage. To make it even easier, have an assault engineer, then you don't need to worry about your placement. In order to get the pad out, the best way to do it is have the lodestar stay underneath the router after it's deployed and have the driver from the router drop out onto the back of the lodestar. Then it's just a simple matter of moving to the left or right in order to pull out the router pad. Now, deploying the pad itself is another thing. There's a slight rim around the edge of the spawn tube. Place your pad there, and there is no delay time between spawn and teleportation. If you really want to be evil, you can also set up a router over by the tower. Now you can do this one with a fortification engineer. You slap down a trap and then you deploy the router on top of the trap. What this does is when a person teleports into it, due to collision bug, it causes the person to be thrown out a good distance and take a bit of armor damage. And the distance is enough in order to trigger the Spitfires. Or, if you want to, have a motion sensor and have even more fun with that. The reason this works not for bases is because the bases prevent you from placing a trap. So, have fun with that one. And as far as I know, this bug has not been fixed. Join us next time when we go into another router trick, Underground Max Crash.